Educational bureaucrats are destroying our nation's youth. Since 1970, funding for K-12 education has increased 152%, see below. What have we gotten for this? Absolutely nothing. Less than nothing. The quality of American education declines as activist administrators and teachers take over the education system. We have no improvements in class size, a menial improvement of 8% in teacher pay, and students cannot find Canada on a map. Modern students cannot think critically and are far behind their European and East Asian peers in mathematics and literacy. To add insult to injury, administrators in education continue to hire more of their own to put more pressure on teachers. The bureaucracy increases as the quality of education does nothing but decline. As the left has acquired total control of the education of American children, they have failed to address any of the educational inequities they have droned on about for decades. Teachers' unions are more interested in politicking than educating the next generation of American leaders. The university system is no better. Most professors in the social sciences and humanities identify as activist, radical, or even Marxist. In fact, the #1 most cited source in the humanities is Michel Foucault, a lifetime Marxist turned postmodernist, and a pedophile. The postmodernists felt traditional Marxism was vulgar, so they sought to expand his economic worldview of class consciousness to racial consciousness, critical race theory, sexual consciousness, queer theory, and to other domains of complete nonsense. The third most cited source in the social sciences is Paulo Freire, a Marxist-Leninist, who wrote Pedagogy of the Oppressed, a book that espouses the virtues of the Soviet Union and other dictatorships. Freire believed teachers should focus more on creating activism in students than education. His influence is the reason we see political indoctrination in all fields of the education system today, including math and science. The result is that most students gain a significantly more negative view of the United States and capitalism. Let us remember that capitalism, according to Adam Smith, is a system of natural liberty. Why would anyone hate that? Well, those students would have to be indoctrinated by far left-leaning teachers for more than a decade. Then slap on 4 more years near the end taught by extremist left-wing Marxists, activists, and radicals, and you have a couple of generations of American child adults who hate their country and themselves. The latter portion is the disgusting, horrible, and hedonistic effort of the cult following behind Paulo Freire and Karl Marx. The nihilistic pessimism and the rise in mental illness among recent generations is fully and completely on the ink-stained hands of our public education system. One must ask oneself, was this all intentional? John Taylor Gatto is a well-known author who taught in the public school system for over 30 years and would agree that it has. In his book, Dumbing Us Down, he stated, "Now you know. We don't need Karl Marx's conception of grand warfare between the classes to see that it is in the interest of complex management, economic or political, to dumb people down, to demoralize them, to divide them from one another, and to discard them if they don't conform. School has done a pretty good job of turning our children into addicts, but a spectacular job of turning our children into children." Again, this is no accident. Theorists from Plato to Rousseau, to our own Dr. Inglis knew that if children could be cloistered with other children, stripped of responsibility and independence, encouraged to develop only the trivializing emotions of greed, envy, jealousy, and fear, they would grow older but never truly grow up. We have become a nation of children, happy to surrender our judgments and our wills to political exhortations and commercial blandishments that would insult actual adults. The solution. There is no easy solution to this problem. I can tell you, if you are a parent, it will take everything you have to change your public school system for the better. It is better to improve the lives of your own children or others in your immediate vicinity first. As John Taylor Gatto stated, once you understand the logic behind modern schooling, its tricks and traps are fairly easy to avoid. School trains children to be employees and consumers, teach your children to be leaders and adventurers. School trains children to obey reflexively, teach your own to think critically and independently. Well-schooled kids have a low threshold for boredom, help your own develop an inner life so that they'll never be bored. Urge them to take on serious material, the grown-up material, in history, literature, philosophy, music, art, economics, theology, all the stuff school teachers know well enough to avoid. Indoctrinated teachers do not know they are indoctrinated. Public school education's real purpose is to turn them into servants, says Gatto. Therefore, the change will not come from within the public school system but outside forces. It will take another generation to bring about this positive change. This can come from homeschooling and school choice. School choice is not the boogeyman the left has made it out to be. It is common in Northern European countries that are traditionally more politically left-leaning than the United States. Homeschooling is also illegal in some countries such as Germany, so appreciate the fact it is even possible to do so here. We need school choice because competition breeds innovation. A competitive environment would force schools to fire woke administrators who spend most of their days in useless meetings, dreaming up new ways to infuse activist politics into school lessons and pedagogy. Teachers' unions should be abolished since they continuously use their funds to push political narratives at the expense of children. The Department of Education, like socialism, should be abolished because it, in general, has a record of failures so blatant that only an intellectual could ignore or evade it, says Thomas Sowell. Teachers should receive a bigger chunk of the money going into education. A study shows teachers make $2,000 less than 10 years ago, when adjusted for inflation. This is a travesty given that some of the most dedicated teachers spend a great deal of their own money on school supplies. Woke activist indoctrination has quite literally taken precedent over properly supplying elementary school classrooms. This is the result of highly bureaucratic system run from the talking heads in Washington, D.C. Abolish the Department of Education and we will be better for it. If we fired useless administrators, we could afford more teachers, and dramatically reduce class size. Any teacher can tell you it is much easier to get through copious amounts of material with smaller classes. Imagine K-12 classes of only 4 to 6 people instead of 20 to 30. John Taylor Gatto is adamant about reducing the amount of time in classroom as well and upping the difficulty level. Textbooks for preteens in the 1800s are comparable to some college textbooks today. We have a student body that does not want to be there but cannot explain why. If class time were reduced, students would be more interested, and when students are alert and interested, they can learn much more in a much shorter period. Young people need more work experience. This will improve their independence and self-reliance. This can come via part-time jobs, internships, and let us bring back apprenticeships. The trades have been short on quality people for a long time. They could use more people and less useless government regulation. Lastly, the minimum wage should be abolished. Most minimum wage earners are under 25 years old. The youth employment participation rate has declined over the past 20 years as loser politicians have convinced the plebs that every job should allow you a large house, brand new car, the latest electronics, or anything their heart desires. Young people need to get their beak wet with a few menial jobs as teens. Then they can get solidly paying jobs as adults and eventually accomplish their dreams.